Oi you, it's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
Yes, hello Amelia.
How good? What is that? I always know I'm in trouble when you say my name in full.
Yeah.
Not in trouble.
No, you're not in trouble.
You're not. You're
not
like,
in trouble. You're not in trouble at this moment. You won't be in
Not
trouble
in
in
trouble.
another few moments.
No, you're just frustrated with me when you use my full name. I know when you're frustrated with me. Yeah, you use my full
I've
name.
never done that.
You do.
Honestly,
You do. Really, really
you've hit your
do.
bleeding head. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. And this is Amelia, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always. Yeah. You're frustrated.
Yeah.
Anyway, how's it going?
Good.
That's good.
I'm good. It's been a challenging couple of weeks though. Fuck.
Has it?
Yeah, it has
has
been.
been.
It's been a challenging personally couple of weeks. We might talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
anyway, talking
What's
about
your song?
Children of the Revolution just came into my mind. You know, you can't beat the children of the revolution. Ow, ow, no. T-Rex. Did you know that he...
Oh my God, some trivia, like random trivia again.
Oh, such a good song, though. If you listen to it, it's such a banging tune. From I think it's from the early 70s, maybe 71, 72, but it's such a fucking good
Back in
song.
your era when you
No,
were
I wasn't
born.
even born in 71. Or
Not in 71.
Or 72.
You were born at the end of 72.
Yeah, the very end.
Yeah. So
Like, it
you're
was
going to be
fucking-
50
I
this
was
year.
almost
50
born
this year.
at the same date that Jesus himself
Oh
was
my
born.
God. Anyway,
Jesus. Yes. What? Nothing. Jesus.
talk to me. No,
Yes.
this is not.
What?
This is not.
Nothing.
No.
Anyway, do you know what movie that was from?
No.
Well, you're crap then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mel Brooks movie.
There you go.
Do you know who Mel Brooks was?
Huh?
Do you know who Mel Brooks
Yes,
was?
I know who Mel Brooks
Who was Mel Brooks?
Mel Brooks was a director, a movie producer, director. He
Writer,
did,
stand-up comedian.
Yeah, it's a comedian. Yeah, he did the Men in Tights.
Men in
Robin Hood,
Tights.
Men in Tights.
He
Yeah.
also did... you want to know?
No, a few
More
other things.
beans, Mr. Taggart? I'd say you've had enough.
Oh my God. Okay, well, shall we get to the topic at hand? What
Okay.
are you going on about, honestly?
Nothing. But you can't stop the children of the revolution.
No, you definitely can't.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, no.
So we got a comment on one of our podcasts,
Yep.
and it was basically about somebody asking about how to, like, she parents her kids in a respectful manner, but this kid's got their own little world going on,
Yeah.
like really wants to be in control of their world and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she just asked for some advice. So what we thought we'd do is give like some of the top 5 things to do in order to
Yeah.
manage the
Yep.
emotions of your kids. Firstly, this is a pre thing to do, is you've got to manage your own emotions first, because
Yeah.
if you go in emotional, then it doesn't matter what.
Well, I
you
think
do.
one of the things that happens for parents, and I'm a fucking parent, is you take what's going on for them so personally. You think...
feel like you need to fix that.
Yeah,
for them.
and not on the... Like it's funny, kids have their own language, you know? They haven't developed an intellect the way you have, but they also haven't developed an understanding of their world and their surroundings. And so a lot of the time, if their world and their surroundings is too much for them, they try to cope by controlling what they can control. Do you know what I mean? And they're limited.
That means that, so if a kid is trying to control, it's because they feel that somewhere outside of them,
There's something happening they're not in control
They're not
of.
able to be in control
And
of.
sometimes that can be, you know, the parents fighting. It can be movement of a home. It can be something that's happening at kindy or school. It can be anything at all. But it's something that they don't feel they have the emotional intelligence, the intellect, or the know-how to be able to help what's going on. So I can't help in that way, but I can help in this way by
this is what I can
controlling
do to
my
help.
world.
Yeah.
You know.
So, like I said, we have to preface everything by saying when you go in to communicate with a kid, you've got to be, there's times obviously where you've got your shit going on, and so, but you'll notice that when that's happening, you're not going to be able to be present with the kid in the same way, and as a result of that, it's going to affect everything. So if you can sort of step aside out of that before you do these steps, that helps, right?
Yeah.
So number 1, the first step is to understand that they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And when a kid doesn't, because we can talk to kids at any age at the end of the day, but oftentimes we talk about like young kids. They don't necessarily have the ability to communicate what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And so it will come out in the form of a tantrum. It'll come out in the form of frustration. It will come out in the form of, language that they use, coming out in the form of saying, I hate you, or, leave me alone, or whatever it is. It'll come out in a form. But what it's really important to understand at that point is that they're not doing that deliberately to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
And I think that is key or foundational when you are dealing with a child. A kid has big emotions and they don't have the vocabulary or the experience or I think I said vocabulary or experience, whatever, to be able to communicate it in such a way, to communicate what's going on with them in such a way that someone can understand them because they don't have the words for it. So just the parent understanding that the kid is having a rough time, I think is important, is the first thing to understand.
Yeah. And you've also got to understand that kids are constructing their personal reality between 0 and 8 years old. And if you think of the concept of it, the straw that, something happened and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back and the kid just went into a complete meltdown. Well, it takes many straws to break a camel's back, not just one. And if you understand and think about it, that those straws are, if we build our concepts of our reality through a thing called associated memory, then those straws are all the associated memories that lead the kid to one point why they have a complete meltdown for what you perceive to be no specific reason.
I remember that when I was a kid. I remember it was like I felt like I couldn't get angry or really express my emotions fully. And so I would kind of hold it in. And someone would do the simplest thing and I would explode. Yeah. Like literally explode. I remember one time I literally had a full-on melty because my cousin came in the room and switched the light on.
Right.
That's like it took just switching the light on for that to trigger all this cascade of emotion that had been building up, and I didn't have words to articulate. Do you know what I mean? So that's exactly what's going on. It's like these little pinpricks, but then they all add up.
Yeah, because what happens is the kid sees things going on, and I always give the analogy of the kid playing in the hallway, and then he's playing the hallway for years and years. 2-3 years of his life, and then one day, and every day Dad comes past and says, "Hi, son," and rubs him on the head, and then one day Dad comes past and Dad is wearing blue pants, a white shirt, and he walks inside, and as he comes past, he kicks the toy, and the kid doesn't realise he's had a shitty day at work, and he yells at the kid. So the kid will associate that memory of a toy, the hallway, the blue pants, the white shirt, and then he'll go and have another experience with a school teacher who has blue pants and a white shirt, except they might be in a classroom, and that teacher, yells at one of the kids in the class, and the little fella can't understand how it's of service to the kid getting yelled at, that he's being yelled at. So he now associates a classroom with blue pants, a white shirt, and then let's say the teacher has a mustache. And then one day you're in the shopping mall and you walk past, you're in a bigger room, you walk past, the butcher, and the butcher has blue pants, a white shirt, a mustache, and he's chopping meat. So now the kid is associating all of those memories, and then it just becomes one overload, and suddenly the kid is in the middle of the shopping mall on the ground having a tantrum. And he's doing this because all of these associated memories have equated to somebody yelling or somebody being high in emotion or getting angry or doing something that's noisy. And so that can be the trigger. It's nothing to do with what the parent has done. It's to do with all the straws building up to the last straw that breaks the camel's back and the kid has a meltdown. So we are constructing our concepts of a reality through a thing called associated memory, and in associated memory, we're associating each memory with an event, and then that event raises an emotion. The kid can't overcome it. The emotion has to come out, but the parent takes it as if, what the fuck have I done?
Well, the
or
thing
starts to tell the kid, what are you doing? Get up, and starts yelling at the kid.
You've got to understand that whatever's going on the surface is not the truth about what's happening. There's something else going on underneath. Do you need to cough or something? I love how you use up all your coughing time for the podcasts.
It's like I got a bit of popcorn in my throat.
Did you just eat popcorn?
A few minutes ago, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Anyway, It's nice of you to turn away from the mic for a
I always
second.
find that popcorn gives me a really sexy voice.
No.
Don't you reckon?
No. No. Anyway, let's go to number 2. So the first thing to understand is that kids are having a hard time, right?
They're constructing their reality. It's not you. It's they're building certain things, and certain things load up.
Yeah.
You know, and when they get loaded up,
you
they
can't
express
say
an
it's
emotion.
not you, because sometimes it can be you. It can be some.
Yeah, but don't take it personally.
It's not about, but it's not. It's just about understanding that the surface isn't the whole story.
Yeah.
The surface isn't the whole story.
Well, that's one thing of understanding,
Yeah.
but also it's important to understand that it is not all you, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
definitely is. Okay. So the next thing is that when kids have got emotions, you want to let them express their emotions, right? One of the worst things that adults do is that we try to push our emotions down. We don't allow ourselves to feel something. So as a result of that, we it's like the emotion stays there to bubble up for later. Beauty of kids, if they're allowed to express their emotions, the emotions literally last for a very short space of time, whether they're sad, whether they're happy, whether they're excited, whether they're frustrated. It's really important to give them space to express themselves and express how they're feeling. Now, sometimes that is going to come out in words, and other times it's going to come out in maybe anger or frustration or tears or, hurt little bodies, that want to cuddle up with you, whatever it is. It's important to let them express it. And as we go through, there's another step to help them express their emotions. But the biggest thing you notice is that when kids are allowed to express them, they don't last for that long. They don't have it doesn't drag on forever. Kids are really resilient. They'll get up and move on, right? So allowing them to express their emotions and giving them space to do that is important. Yes, yes?
Well, kids have no concept of time, They haven't lived long enough to understand how time works. And so when you allow a kid to have an experience an emotion, and you don't try to, you don't get in their way by going, get up off the ground. What are you doing? Don't be behaving like that. Why are you lying on the wood?
Yeah.
Stop that. The minute you do that, the kid gets worse and worse and worse. Rather than just stopping and understanding, hey, mate, you okay? And what's going on? What's happened? And just talking to them about it. And of course, there's times where they will go away. I don't want to talk to you. I hate you. Like we had one of them with Ollie yesterday morning. He came out the front door and he went to get into the car and his sister wouldn't move over. And I said, and he slammed the door and walked off and was like, and then I'm like, no, Ollie, you have to understand it, and then I spoke to Lola, said, you got to move over when he's only 6, Lola. And when he goes to get into the car, I said, you got to use your words and communicate properly and say, please, Lola, can you move over? Don't just open the door and say, move over. So, but he walked away and sat in the corner, and I'm trying to get them off to school. I'm like, dude, we got to get everybody, the girls are going to get late notes. So I'm with him and I'm like, dude, what's going on? Gee, won't move over. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go.
He's allowed to express how he's feeling.
I totally get that. So let's go over and talk to Lola. And then I spoke to her then briefly about it then, and then I had to come away and process it myself. And when I got and picked him up from school later on that day, I was able to say to Lola, this, Oliver's 6 and you got to understand this, so that Oliver feels heard, and Lola, understands that, he has to be taught how to communicate correctly, but also you got to accommodate because he is a lot smaller than you, and you got to be able to help him. And Lola's like, yeah, I totally get it. And then he was also like, he was better about the whole thing,
Well, because you guys are very good at allowing them to express themselves, and it's important that he's allowed to do that, The third thing is something we've kind of already touched on, or you were touching on before, but a key point about helping kids manage their emotions is not taking anything that's going on personally. It's not about you. So even though the thing that may have triggered them might have been because of something you said or something you did, and, kids have tantrums for the randomest reasons anyway, or get upset for random stuff anyway. But you have to understand that it's not about you. It's not what they're learning to do is they're learning to express themselves. You being there helps them to learn that. And so you being able to handle their emotions, them being able to express themselves freely, This shows them that you as a parent are not afraid of their big emotions. Because one of the big things is that as adults, we tend to be afraid of our own big emotions. And so when that happens, we don't handle it when other people are emotional, right? We're afraid of our own big emotions, so we don't handle it when other people are emotional because we don't want to get that way. So then when it comes to a kid, we're afraid that it's going to affect and it's going to impact on how we feel about ourselves. If he's frustrated, then what have I done about that? What have I done to create that? Or my own frustration comes up and I don't want to handle my own frustration. So what ends up happening is it's just this melee of like emotion instead of going, right, if I've got emotions, I'm going to process them later. This is not about me. Sure, I might have said something like, get in the car, or I might have told him he couldn't do such and such, and that's triggered off something, but it's still not about me. It's about what he has to process or what she has to process as a result of what I've said. It's just the process of learning to be able to handle these big feelings inside of themselves. A great example is, when a young kid is having a great time and they have to leave, like they're at the park or they're playing with their little mates and they have to leave. They don't want to leave, right? And then they'll cry and cry and cry and cry. So you're the one who's been responsible for asking them to leave. But it's not about you. It's about their feelings of separation as they're going to leave their little buddies. And you don't have when you can see it's not about you, and don't take it personally, then you can understand and you can sit there and you can help them with their feelings, which leads us kind of into step 4, which is giving words to their feelings. When you can give words to their feelings, I can see that you're upset about the fact that you've got to leave your buddies. It's hard sometimes when we've got to leave something that we love. They feel validated. You haven't taken it personally. They understand that you can handle their big feelings and you're not going to be frightened away from it. That is the key in terms of helping a kid to be able to express themselves and to be able to manage your emotions. Managing the emotions is not getting rid of the emotions. Managing their emotions is about helping them have words to describe it, you giving words to help them describe it so that they understand that you get them. Do you know what I mean? And it's very similar to, you always, one of the things we always talk about is about how Lexi used to come up with you with the pieces of paper and the drawings, and you would tell her, you would say you were proud of her. And then she kept coming up to you for that validation. Instead of sitting her down and going, well, how do you feel about this, Lexi? You must be feeling proud. You must be feeling creative. You must be feeling excited that you did this. So you're giving words to her feelings. You do that in both ways. You do that when stuff is, positive, and you do that with stuff is going on for them so that they can understand that you're that you can see what's happening for them. You're not trying to dismiss what they're feeling. They're allowed to feel angry. They're allowed to feel upset. They're allowed to feel hurt. They're not allowed to treat you in a certain way as a result of that. So if they start hitting and stuff, you can be like, no, that's not something that we don't do. We don't hit. We're allowed to feel angry. I can see that you're feeling angry. You just can't hit mummy when you're angry or daddy when you're angry or whatever. So you're giving words to them and you're allowing them to express themselves and understand that it's just not about you. I know that old school way of thinking, especially, if kids ever used to say, my mum or my grandmother hate you, oh my God, you'd be like, especially in a WOG family, you'd be dead, right? But it's like they're just learning. They're just learning to understand how to navigate and how to process these feelings and emotions that are too big for their little bodies, and they just don't have a way to do that. So what they're doing is just they're expressing in the best way they know how. And as an adult, you want to help them to understand that their expression of their emotion is okay and that there are ways that we can do it. Just like you would say to Oliver, there's ways that you can ask Lola for that. We had to have this conversation with Lola many times actually because Lola's a real 0 to 100 girl. She's like 1 minute she's fine, the next minute the world is falling in on top of her. And it's like, Lola, you've just gone from 0 to 100. Let's take steps along the way. Like maybe use your words and ask for something ask a question here, ask a question here. And then if they're still not behaving in the way that you like, then you can, step it up. But like, no, she just 0 to 100. So it's a process of helping her to manage what's actually going on in her little body and how she's feeling. In those
And I mean,
moments.
excuse me, managing it for them is also managing it for you.
100%.
You know, so and that's how they learn to manage their emotions.
Well, that's,
you know, if you tell them to shut it down and stop it and just get up off the ground, or I'm going to give you a slap on the bum or whatever that is. If you do that, you're saying that your emotions are not valid. And there's also there's the argument out there that people have of, yeah, but then you're just making soft kids, you know, and you're letting kids express their emotions. The beauty about letting kids express their emotions is that they realize that their emotions are only real in the moment, but they're not there to rule their lives. Do you know what I mean? So when an emotion is only real in the moment, they understand that okay, it's not actually real. It's just what's in this moment. Does that make sense? Whereby if you teach them not to, that emotion gets stuck in them, and then that becomes a mood, which becomes a temperament, which becomes a way of life. And then that becomes their personal reality. And their personal reality is to have that mood, temperament, that way of life, and now it's my personal reality, which becomes their personality. So that's how you have to understand when people are shaping their kids and telling them not to feel, and then they work out when the kid is 12, why the kid is fucking depressed. Well, the kid is fucking depressed because
you didn't model how to express emotions.
How to express an emotion.
And that you weren't afraid of their emotions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And you got to teach them that, you know, depression is a choice. If you're going to be depressed, that's your choice to do that, kiddo. But happiness is joy is also a choice, you know, and feeling grateful and connected. These are also choices.
The only thing with that I'll say is that is not something you say to the kid. That's something you demonstrate to the kid. It's like you get to have all of those. You get to experience all of those emotions. All of those myriad of emotions are a part of being human. So you demonstrating and doing these steps helps you to help them, and then it also helps you to moderate your own emotions amongst what's going on for them. Do you know what I mean? Because you have to. Because every time, like, a kid is upset, you feel the hurt in that. So you have to moderate your own emotions as you're watching them experiencing their stuff, you know. And the last step is there's an issue. Oftentimes, as a result of this emotion coming up, there's oftentimes an issue. The fifth step is helping talk about the issue outside of the emotion of the issue. So what that means is that if there's a scenario, just like with Oliver and Lola, you waited till the end of the day until it was done for you to be able to have that conversation with them, because in that moment they literally can't process what you're trying to tell them. You know, I had a conversation with Lola that I had to tell her off about something yesterday, and it was like I know that she heard only what she could have heard, not tell her off, but explain to her why some of the things that she was doing was inappropriate and I wasn't going to accept it. And I explained it to her, but I knew she could only hear a part of it. So now I have to wait till a time where it's settled and we're outside of the emotion for me to have that conversation with her, you know. With young kids, you can have that conversation in different ways. You can play, you can role play, you can laughing is a good way to, like, diffuse that emotion of certain things. Do you know what I mean? But when they're older, you can actually have conversations. But the conversations need to happen outside of the actual incident. Do you know what I mean? You deal with the incident, you allow the incident to occur, and you're there and you're not afraid of it. But if there's learnings to be had, oftentimes that has to happen outside of the emotion.
Yeah, 100%.
So first thing,
well, and people should understand that emotions are distortions.
Yes,
they
100%.
are not. They they are not the truth. They are not reality. And your emotional, the distortions only occur to take you back into a state of clarity and balance. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So you can communicate with equanimity, non-emotionally, and you can communicate the truth. To the kid. When you're emotional, there's no point in communicating, because emotions are like negotiating with a drunk. You can't fucking do it. So don't negotiate.
Whether it's an adult or a kid,
it doesn't matter. Don't try to negotiate with a drunk. The best thing to do is let them calm down, give them their space, and straight away they'll come and talk to you. You know, but don't try to work it out when they're drunk. It's just not possible.
I think doing all of these steps helps you when you get to a point later on in life when there's things that are difficult to talk about. Do you know what I mean? They're difficult for you. If you can step into the discomfort of being able to deal with that as a parent, as a teenager, these kids are going to come to you and be they're going to understand that you're able to handle their emotions. You're not going to be frightened away by their big emotions because you're telling them to shut it down or not to have certain feelings, etc. You know. So I'm just going to go through the steps again. So the first thing is that obviously you've got to do your own work beforehand, but then understanding that they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. That you have to let them express their emotions. You don't take it personally. You understand that whatever's going on for them is something that's happening for them and it's a process for them. You help give words to their feelings, their emotions, what's actually going on for them so that they can start to understand and articulate and have words to describe those feelings for themselves. And then finally, you want to talk about the situation if it's necessary outside of the immediate emotion of the moment. And you talk about it in whatever way is applicable to the child's age, you know, whether that's in role play, whether that's in actual conversation, applicable to the kid's age. So important though. Yep. I love, like, one of my favourite things ever to do is talk to kids and help them with their emotions because it's like I get to connect in that way and I also get to, I get to be for the kids what I feel like I didn't really have myself. And I feel like I'm personally, just in those little interactions, I feel like I'm making a difference, and I really, really, really love that. That's me personally because I love kids, you know. So.
Yeah. Even if you live the most extraordinary life, there is always more to learn. This is why tens of thousands of people are using MJB seminars techniques to hack their consciousness and bridge the gap from where they are to where they actually want to be.
MJB seminars use cutting-edge transformational processes that are science-based and backed to help people break through subconscious barriers and limiting beliefs in order to reset, reboot and live inspired. If you'd like to know more today, Google search MJB seminars Bridge the Gap, click on the first link and watch the video.
Now, for simply watching the video, you will also receive a complimentary coaching session with one of our master coaches valued at over $600 to help you get traction in your life today. Remember, live life inspired.